Now this is Wrinkled Cress. It's the most amazing foliage filler, so easy to grow. The seeds are available from our January seed shop. I will show you. And it takes up the smallest amount of space in your garden. So if you're having a wedding or event around the June-July time next year or this year, then you need this plant. Next, we're going to sow Wrinkled Cress. Now you are going to love this. You sow it, you grow it, and plant it and harvest it so quickly that you can actually use it as something called a catch crop. Catch crop means using a plant in a space in the garden that's actually earmarked for something else, but that something else takes longer to grow. So remember the snapdragons that we sowed at the beginning of the season? I usually use the Wrinkled Cress as a catch crop to go in that slot before those snapdragons are ready. So I will literally harvest all of the Wrinkled Cress, and on the very next day those snapdragons will then be ready to be planted and take their place, which means you haven't got a square inch in your garden that's not being used. You're intrigued now, aren't you? Let me play you a video. This is the Wrinkled Cress. Look, it's nearly ready. So what I'm going to do is, this is taking up a gap in the snapdragon bed. Can you see? So I'm going to hold back some plants. So as soon as the Wrinkled Cress is over, we could put a dahlia in here if you wanted to, but as soon as it's over, I think I'm just going to plug it with some snapdragons, which are in big enough pots, so they're basically the same size as that's in the bed already. So I'm just harvesting this gorgeous Wrinkled Cress. Look at that. And it's left this square, it's 47 centimetres square, in the flower frame. So what I'm going to do is, these are snapdragons. These were late winter, early spring sown, and I've got some more in pots that have been waiting for a gap in the beds and borders. So I'm going to plant them now, and then you'll never know that the Wrinkled Cress was ever here. Bed flip complete. They'll soon fill out. Now they've got this extra space, and they'll look exactly like these ones here. Now this really couldn't be any easier. You just need to sow one seed per cell into a 40 cell tray. You can actually direct seed these if you want to. I never direct seed anything, because then I have to worry about making a stale seed bed and making sure I don't get any weed seeds. I never know where I'm going to put things until I see what they look like. So I much prefer sowing in cells, and then I can also make sure that the plants have got the correct spacing without having to throw plants away. So, but anyway, it's up to you. And then once these are sown, I'm just going to put them in a warm, bright place for germination. Seeds are so easy to grow that you can just germinate them in your cold greenhouse, 13 to 18 degrees. It's absolutely fine. They don't need to go in the house, they don't need to go on a heat mat, and they will grow so quickly that we will plant them directly from their 40 cell trays. We will not have time to pot them on into 15 cells. We'll plant them slightly closer together than we have done for everything else, because they grow so fast, they don't bulk as much. So you'll need a few more seeds than you normally would do for your spacing. The spacing is only 10 centimetres apart rather than 22, so you'll need at least double. Oh goodness, the Wrinkled Cress is coming along really well, isn't it? Be able to get that hardened off and out in the garden soon. This is our lovely Wrinkled Cress. It's going to be planted between 5 and 10 centimetres apart, so much closer than anything else we've planted so far. You can, of course, if you want to, do a succession of sowings of Wrinkled Cress to keep the harvest going. I don't tend to, because earlier on in the season I have got Brisa Maxima, and I've also got the flowering shrubs, and then later on in the season I've got eucalyptus, I've got panic and frosted explosion, I've got my auroch, I've got my amaranthus. So I would prefer to give that bed space over to the snapdragons after the Wrinkled Cress. But around the beginning of summer, when the Wrinkled Cress flowers, that well, seeds, that is exactly when I'm really short of a foliage filler, which is the reason why I grow it and the reason why I love it. Just down in my Wrinkled Cress patch. Look at that. Absolutely incredible. So if you are growing for a wedding or an event next year and you don't have an awful lot of foliage in your garden that you can cut, then you're going to need a foliage filler, and you really cannot go wrong with this. It's so easy to grow. You will need to give it a little bit of support, because look how tall it's got. There are just 13 stems of Wrinkled Cress here, and I've got a tiny patch just behind me. That's about an eighth of a bed, so you can really pack quite a lot in to a very small space. So these are the stocks and the Wrinkled Cress. They're both one-cut wonders, but my goodness me, do they pack a punch. And the good thing about them is not only have they been flowering for ages in the garden, but now you've cut them, you've got a space to put your asters and your zinnias and any last dahlias that need a home. So they're certainly worth growing for that reason. But my goodness me, a cut and come again would not give you stems like this. They put all their energy into this enormous bloom. Information for Wrinkled Cress is on page 32 of your spring handbook.